morning and welcome to the lecture series Introduction to Interaction Design. So, in the last lecture we had seen design and prototyping part 1, where we saw that what are the different stages required when we are designing. So, starting from ideation to mood boards to low fidelity prototyping, testing and other steps. So, today we will be looking at a case study which will help us gain a better understanding of the steps that we saw in the previous lecture. So, we will know that how it will all come together. So, what is the role of mood board, how will it help in the final design, or what are how do you identify the user goals, for example. So, now this is a case study where the website design for promoting tourism in Uttarakhand was the given problem. So, this work is was a part of submission for the subject interaction design, which is a subject in the MDes course or Master of Design course in Industrial Design at IIT Roorkee. So, this submission was given or submitted by my student Soumya Burman. So, I will also add a link of this, the Behance link, so you can also take a look at it later. So, now here Soumya started with understanding about the Uttarakhand state and that where is it positioned, what is it known as, like it is known as Devbhumi, which is the land of gods, and the reason for that is because it has a lot of these pilgrim spaces, pilgrim areas and sites. So, now this is the about information because this particular app deals with the website of Uttarakhand tourism. So, now the approach that has been utilized here is the double diamond. So, we can see here that she started with the problem space tourism Uttarakhand and then researched more in the problem area. So, in the solution space she discovered various possible outcomes and then narrowed upon one of the solutions. So, we will see that how she proceeded. So, in the primary research insight or the primary study, so she put together the popular adventure activities because this is for tourism. So, now there are various activities which come under tourism. So, there could be people who are just visiting for say for pilgrims, or they could be people who want to come to Uttarakhand for some kind of sports activities, which it is known for because there are high mountains and there are certain activities that may not be available in the rest of the country, and especially where we have flat land. So, here we have activities like trekking, paragliding, zip lining, bungee jumping, even safaris and canoeing, because we have the Ganges flowing. So, there is river rafting, other activities happening here, and then so then she has put together them in the in this graphical manner at the bottom on the left, that how many what are the popular tourist spots in different parts of Uttarakhand. At the same time, she has also conducted a study that what is the general stay period of visitors. So, one night we can see from the graph. So, it helps us, now we can see that how the analysis part and how the representation of the results is being done here effectively. So, we can see with the help of the graph very quickly and easily that majority of people spend 2 nights in Uttarakhand. Now, there may be several reasons, maybe they are not getting enough holidays from their office, or maybe they want to go to some other state later on, but the data says that 2 nights is the general, or majority of people spend 2 nights here, followed by 1 night and then maybe 3 nights and other things. And also we can see in the result section again that what is the age group of the visitors. So, here we can see that 35 to 44 year olds is forms the major block of the visitors to Uttarakhand. So, in the secondary research that was conducted, so we can see that what are the other websites that exist. So, now because we cannot reinvent the wheel, so we have to design a website that will cater to something more, it will cater something special. So now these other websites that she has researched, we can see that she has also written that what was missing from this or some of the salient points. So it is less but efficiently categorized, like for example the Incredible India website. It gives language support and it mainly targets the international tourists. So it is basically like doing a small case study to understand that what are the positive aspects or which can be used, we can also use them, and what are the challenges or problems that we will need to avoid when we are designing our own work. Similarly, she has looked at the Morocco tourism. So where no translator is on the website, it is not impactful for the foreign tourists, and there is no variation in the itinerary. So now since we may want, and it is actually quite true, because that international tourists visit India in large numbers, and that is also one of the major areas of resource that we gather from tourism. It is a big industry in India. So we would obviously want to cater to the needs of the international visitors also. And it is also true, I mean, we may have experience in our own lives as well, that when we are traveling to a foreign location, any other country or any other state where we don't have the same type of language that we use, or the culture is different, then there are certain challenges that people come across. So similarly, you can take a look at all of the other studies that she conducted. So when the user interviews were conducted, so she has put together some of the salient features or outcomes from these interviews, where for example, we will take quickly one or two important points here. That one person, Webhub, says that I often find difficult to plan the trip, what to explore and what not. So there is no categorization of tourist places, what and when to visit. The other female traveler, she says that I find difficulty to find washrooms and safe resting spots while traveling. So it gets hectic to plan a safe trip. So here we can see, for her the hygiene is very important, identifying washroom is very important, planning a safe trip with the family is very important. And similarly, so we can pick out those points, we can pick out the pain points and points that people look forward to when they are traveling. So what will make their experience of traveling very fruitful and positive? So how can we then incorporate those in our work as well? So now we have created the how might we statement. Now how might we questions are basically a brainstorming technique which is used to reframe problems or challenges into opportunities for creative problem solving. So these questions encourage innovative thinking and they open up possibilities for generating new ideas and solutions. And the structure of a how might we question typically follows a certain format, wherein we, after how might we insert a verb and then a target user or a group, and then solve a problem or meet a need. For example, how might we design an interactive application for Uttarakhand tourism industry, or how might we give users a healthy community of travelers. So once we have identified several of these how might we questions, because they are now telling us about the problems or challenges in a very clear fashion. So now we can create a problem statement out of these how might we statements. So here the problem statement that Soumya has identified is that designing an application for the Uttarakhand tourism industry that helps users discover the undiscovered and focuses on customizable itinerary, reviews and participatory discussions of users to create a healthy community of travelers. So for different problem or different need, the how might we questions will change and the problem statement will accordingly also change. So now since we have the problem statement, we know the pain points, we know what we are wanting to offer. So now we are creating a persona. So we have seen in the previous lectures that persona is a fictitious character, and here Saurav Sharma, who is 25-year-old software engineer, this persona has been created. So now we can see that what are his goals when it comes to traveling, and what are the frustrations that he faces. So let's take a look at the frustrations. So crowded tourist spots, unaware of local culture and practices, and having a demanding work schedule and willingness to travel. So these are the frustrations, but goals are visiting somewhere peaceful, visit solo or with close friends, and scenario. So now we have created the scenario. So if you recall the previous lectures, we have created a persona, then we created a scenario, and that helped us to identify the goals of the person or the scenario, or the persona, sorry. So now the scenario here is that Saurav has a long weekend next month and wishes to explore the Valley of Flowers National Park in Uttarakhand, and he wants to make the most of his 3-day trip. So now looking at the scenario, so we can again refine the goals of this particular persona. Now affinity mapping. So we have seen affinity mapping earlier as well. So it is a technique which is used in brainstorming, and where collaborative ideation sessions are organized, and we categorize the ideas or information into meaningful groups. So now the sticky notes generally are used here, they are most effective. So we use sticky notes wherein we data points are put on those sticky notes, and then they are arranged or grouped based on their similar features. So here we can see that different headings are given, like booking. So under booking we have itinerary, we have hotels, we have flight, accommodation. Under filters we have, so of course you may have seen other applications also or websites where, for example, we are shopping for something, so there are several filters that are there, so we can filter our choice. So for example, if I wear a size 5 shoe, then what is the point of looking at shoes which are 7 or 8? So then I will filter my option and look for only a size 5 shoe. So similarly here also, like what could the user may be looking for? So they may be looking for deals, special deals, or they may be looking at certain specific time of departure or arrival, or also the crowd ratio, or whether it is safe for women, children. So several of these things. So now how this map was put together? So we have discussed earlier also, but we can now see, because an example is in front of us. So here we the first step is for generating the pool of ideas or the data points, like popular destination, blogs. So they could all probably have been mixed up, but now we are writing one idea per note, and we are putting it on the board, or on the white board, or on the wall. So whatever is available to us. So basically a large surface, so where we can see them and we can also easily move them around. And then we based on the commonalities or common features and connections between the different ideas which may have certain similarities, themes or certain patterns, so then we group them into a group. Now each group can be given a label or a heading. So here we can see things to do, accessibility. So now under this broad heading, all the other requirements are clubbed together. So then we can refine, we might feel that culture will come somewhere else, maybe it will come in some other heading. So we will move and do the fine refinement, and then finally we can analyze the final map for patterns that are emerging from the groupings, and they can help in decision making and guide us further in our explorations. So now this is the information architecture that has been created for this website. So now we can see that once the user has landed, so there are certain information available to him like feed, search, messages, help and support. So, this is an example of a basic information architecture. So, which is basically the process of organizing, structuring and labeling the information that makes it intuitive and easy to navigate for users. So, like we discussed in the last class also, that it has a certain hierarchy within a system. So, the information is presented in a logical sequence. So, organization and structure is important because this involves defining the main categories, subcategories and the overall hierarchy. Then the next thing is also the navigation design. So, how do we design the menus, navigation bars and other navigational elements to support easy movement for the user, and how the user can orient himself in the space. And then another important is the search functionality. So, how can users search for specific information within the system in a user friendly manner and they do not get frustrated in this process. And also the user flows, which involves understanding the user goals, identifying critical paths and designing clear paths for users to achieve their objectives. So, in plan a trip, we can see here that we have itinerary, we have accommodation, we have custom travel guide, and under that in the booking section we have hotels, hostel, cabs. So, there are several options available for the user to choose from. So, this is a user flow diagram. So, a user flow diagram is also known as a user journey. So, this is a visual representation of the steps and interactions that a user will take while he is using a system, website or it could be an application. So, it maps out the path a user follows from the initial entry point through the various screens, actions and decision points until the desired outcome is achieved. And the main purpose of this flow diagram is to understand and visualize the user's journey, allowing designers and stakeholders to identify potential pain points and some areas where certain more improvements may be required in the user experience. Now, for a BTech or MTech or whatever course we are studying, so we are required to submit a thesis. So, in that thesis we have a flow chart. If you recall, there is a starting point, then how will we go next, will there be primary study involved, secondary study, we will read papers, books, or we will go and talk with people, we will conduct interviews, then how will this all come together. So, that is also an example of a flow chart. So, that helps the user or the reader understand that how this person has conducted his or her research. So, how this thesis has been organized. If we place all the information haphazardly, then the person who is reviewing our thesis will be lost. But when it is placed in a logical sequence, so it makes it easy for the reader to understand that what was the aim of the study and how we proceeded with our objectives and methodology and how we achieved the final goal. So, this is very similar in that fashion. So, now once we have the user flows, we have done our basic study, we come to the wireframe exploration. So, wireframes are visual representations or blueprints that outline the structure, layout and basic functionality of a digital interface or a product. So, as I discussed a little bit earlier also, that at this stage we are not really concerned with the details or with the aesthetics, but we are concerned with the skeleton of our work. So, these are at this stage they are low fidelity designs and they are simple black and white, they could be grayscale and they have simple shapes and placeholders just to show that what will come where. Like an image will come here, so we leave a space, but we probably will not put a image there. But because the main purpose of wireframe is to communicate and validate the layout, organization and the flow of the information within a user interface. So, the wireframes provide us with a very clear visualization of the structure, hierarchy and how the elements that are there, what kind of relationship they have within themselves. So, here in this example we can see that there is a top bar or the header, and the logo will come on the left, then there will be certain buttons for navigation, and then in the middle part we see that there is some communication happening. On the right panel we see there is a chat, and on the left panel we see some other information there. So this is one wireframe which is exploring that how the final design may appear like. Now the wireframes are further explored in this stage. So you can see that these boxes with crosses, some images maybe they will come here. So now on the right, the discover portal, here also we can see that the designer is thinking of placing a map somewhere so that one can find that how much far away a particular activity is if they are planning to take an activity in their free time. So again, this is another wireframe for planning the itinerary, that what will the person do on day 1, day 2, and how can the website offer this traveler with an itinerary. Because sometimes, like we saw in the user interviews, that people say that it is a very time taking process, or they don't know what to do when they are visiting some place. So now the designer here is considering giving that option to the travelers, that they can choose an itinerary. Day 1 you can visit place A, B, C. Day 2 you can visit this, so that they have a very comfortable experience. And also the cognitive loading that we have discussed earlier, that how important it is to consider the cognitive load. So even that is taken care of. Now usability tests and insights. So we have seen that this is a method used to evaluate the usability and user experience of a product, system or a website. So we do this by observing how real users interact with it, and the primary goal is to find any usability issues, also to gather the feedback of the users and make any decisions to improve the overall experience. So here we can see that in the small images, if you can see that the designer is conducting some of these usability tests with the users, and here some questions that maybe the user is asking that they are not able to find answers for, that how does post appear on the feed, or how and whom do I need to follow, or what if I want to share my post to some other social media. So these might be some questions that the designer did not consider in the initial stage. So now this gives them a little bit of a direction that, oh, I missed this information. Like for example, discover section looks pretty good, but its placement on the website, on the web page looks off. So now the designer may also agree with that opinion of the user and may considering changing the direction. So these this is an example of how for this particular exercise these questions came up when the user testing was going on. So now once the testing is done, so like we discussed in the previous lecture, that now we will come up with the final wireframe. So now we can see that the heading in top header and the side navigation bar are divided so that the user can get better access, he can quickly access the navigation bar. Then some breadcrumbs for website navigation is added. So we can see here that there is a feed and then we have an arrow and a discover. So now the user will know that where is he or she in that entire website. So they can always track their steps. So they know that, okay, I entered the feed and went to discover, then I went to this stage. So just like breadcrumbs. And then enhance the landing page feed section and the topic scroll. So some other improvements were also done, like some discover button was added or groups were added. So all of these changes were made based on the usability testing. So this is now a page, or you can say the wireframe, when group needs to be created with the friends to plan a trip. So we can see that this is the DOD, Department of Design Trekkers Club, and how some discussion has started, and then the other friends are also contributing to the discussion started by Shravani here on this page. Similarly, the map to help users locate nearby places where they can go for a local cafe, restaurant, or maybe a holy spot or washroom. So how can they identify some of the common facilities? Then trending topics based on the occasion. So what so there may be some certain occasion or activity for which there may be some discussion going on, some trending discussion. So one person has started and then how the other can follow. Okay, and maps to help users locate nearby places like local cafes, restaurants, parks, or washrooms. So this will help them access them easily, these facilities. They can see themselves where they are on the map, and then they can also see how far away they are from the facility that they are looking for. So now this is the mind mapping technique. So mind mapping technique is a visual technique which is used to organize and represent the information, ideas, or concepts in a hierarchy. So we have discussed this also in the previous lecture. So I will quickly summarize this mind mapping technique, where we start with a central idea. So we begin by identifying a central idea, topic, or problem that we want to understand better, and then we branch out from here to create branches which are radiating outwards, and each branch represents a main category, subtopic, which is related to the main topic. So finally we add sub branches or nodes. So for each main branch, further we expand by adding sub branches or nodes. So we can use visual elements like colors, icons, images, or symbols to enhance the visual appeal and make these connections. So once all that work wherein the wireframes and mapping has been done, so now we are coming to a visual identity, that how will our final design appear to be like. So visual identity refers to the visual elements that represent a brand or organization, and they create a consistent and recognizable visual presence. So we use design elements like logos, typography, colors, and other visual elements that work together to communicate the brand's personality and its values and messages to the audience that we are designing it for. So here we can see that how the color, the mood board, the color palette has been decided, how the text is being explored, the font is being explored, that what will go well with this particular imagery. So this is, and then what kind of images, so collection of these photos that will be attractive, will help the users see that what they are getting into. So in the one of the previous lectures we have discussed about this particular point, that how images are a very important way of communicating to the user and making it a very desirable component. So after this, the logo is also an important aspect here. So the designer has explored this process by generating and exploring different design concepts. So they have taken certain flora and fauna or some types of symbols. Now when these elements, typography, colors, and these are put together, so they create some impactful and unique logos. So this probably is the final version of the logo. Now brand personality, just like we all have a personality, humans have a personality, so the brand also may have a personality of its own. So this refers to the human characteristics and qualities that are associated with the brand. So it is a set of traits, values, and attributes that shape how the brand is perceived by its target audience. So just like we humans have individual personalities, so brands also can cultivate distinct personalities, unique personalities to differentiate themselves and connect with consumers on an emotional level. So we can see here that in this graph where this xy axis where we have unfriendly to friendly and dominant to submissive, so we can see that this particular brand trait falls on in this quadrant where it is dominant, it's not submissive, where it is, you know, not taking a strong step in guiding the user here, for example, but it is at the same time friendly. So it is helping make the user make a certain decision, but in a friendly and user centered manner. So now here you can see that some interesting colorful photos have been put, and this is, you know, all the features that will be there, like it is for friends, family, it is for exploring, recommendation, reviews. And so finally, once we are done with that part, then the user interface exploration will begin. So user interface exploration refers to the process of experimenting with different visual designs and interface elements which create user friendly interfaces. So here we will, you know, explore various design concepts, layouts, typography, and some other interactive elements, which, and we'll find that which is the most effective and which is the most aesthetically pleasing. So the main goal of this exploration is to create an interface that is not only appealing visually, but it also supports the usability and the functional requirements of the product or application. So here we can see that the designer has explored the different types of, you know, how the hover function will work here. So once they click here, then they may be able to see this, at what exactly is in the number 11. Similarly here also on the topics, so it expands to become, you know, offer create, post, add topic, all of these facilities. And similarly in groups, so then there are several groups that can be visible. Now here also we can see that the designer is exploring the next user interface exploration, that how the chat function probably may function, how will people communicate with each other. And then here, say the footer, what all information will come in the footer here, then how will somebody sign up, so what all information will be required, where will this space pop up from. So all of those things the designer is working out here. So how to organize the chats. So now the landing page, so where create a post and view posts based on topic and people you follow. So there's also a function or a facility for someone to follow a traveler. So there are people who you know, have the entire career made out of traveling. So maybe somebody like that, and we look, you know, look up to that person, that this person goes to very you know, interesting places which have not been explored, so maybe we want to follow this person. So it also allows us to follow this person. And so how can we create the post and view the posts and categorize our information which can be easily accessible. Then continuing with this, that for example here the automatic slider, so this will keep on displaying that what are the prominent features, what are the prominent features. Then here in the discover section, that what Uttarakhand has to offer. So on hover, this interaction will work. So once we you know, hover here, then we will get some more information. And posts from, we can also add posts from the Instagram handle. So a lot of flexibility has been provided here, so that the user can link their several of their you know, handles, and make it a very interactive and personalized space. Now here we can see that what is trending this week, this has been shared, and how people are communicating. Maybe some some occasion is happening, maybe there is some kind of a festivity in the state and people would want to you know, go and visit. So some other, similarly some other ways that how we are hovering and then what is happening, how things are opening up. Like for example, this we want to see the who is this person. So when we hover on this, we get more expanded information about this particular user. So, features like this or the map. So, now if one wants to add some location, so they can add some other information, and these drop down menus will give more options. So, all these details have been worked out. So, for the itinerary, that how can we create plan the trip for the users. Then coming to the UI exploration 3. So, now this is another exploration where they have explored different types of illustrations, taking inspiration from these natural images and coming up with more illustrations. And then this is the landing page where we can see that how some of these illustrations are taken, the inspiration is taken from the nature of Uttarakhand, and here as well we have taken inspiration. This is the logo that we started with, so it has changed a little bit of its final shape, and previously what we were exploring here, these particular illustrations, now they have converted into unconventional button designs. So, we are not used to probably seeing such buttons, but then we are trying to integrate nature or the elements of nature here. So, now these will act as the buttons. So, today we saw this case study, that how now all of this data that we gathered, the insights that we got from the user, and also the other explorations that we started about the user needs, user goals, and then coming on to the board, starting with the group activity with our brainstorming and ideation exercise, and then going on to the paper and pencil, and then preparing the low fidelity prototype, testing it, high fidelity. So, we saw today the example of the case study, that how it will appear when all of it is put together. And then finally, once we are satisfied and there are no bugs or there are no inconsistencies or there are no issues or challenges that the user is facing while using it, then we can go ahead and develop it so that it can be accessible by the public. So, we will stop here today. I will see you in the next class. Thank you.